U.S. strikes Iran. Platner wins Maine. Johannesburg mass shooting. More Philippines quake victims. Greetings, humanity. Let's GROK the news. Starting with the most important story in the world today. Dateline, Washington, D.C., and Tehran. U.S. forces struck Iranian targets in retaliation after Iran downed an American military helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz. Central Command confirmed the operation is complete. President Trump directed the response, describing the attack on the U.S. Apache as unjustified aggression. An autonomous drone boat successfully rescued the two crew members in what officials called a first-of-its-kind operation. No American deaths have been reported. Iran fired missiles at sites linked to U.S. interests in Bahrain, Jordan, and Kuwait. Both governments now signal a desire to contain the fighting and avoid full-scale war. The strikes targeted Iranian air defense and radar installations. U.S. officials say the action was limited and proportional. Iranian state media reported limited damage and promised further responses if provoked. Shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz slowed sharply, of course, after the exchange. That narrow waterway carries about one-fifth of the world's oil supply. Oil prices rose quickly on global markets, as usual, and energy traders watch closely for any sustained disruption. And they are making money off of this, record profits for energy speculators. Insurance costs also up for vessels in the region, increased sharply. Diplomatic channels remain open as Washington and Tehran assess the next steps. Trump has long pushed for Iran to have no nuclear material while keeping up maximum military pressure while the diplomacy continues. Defense analysts highlight the successful use of the unmanned surface vessel, in other words, a drone, for rescue of the two servicemen. It demonstrates growing American capabilities in unmanned systems. The Pentagon updated its account to confirm Iranian forces brought down the helicopter. Trump stated publicly that the United States will always defend its troops and interests. This episode comes against a backdrop of fragile regional ceasefire attempts. Earlier indirect talks had shown some progress on nuclear issues, according to U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. He indicated that Washington remains open to a durable deal addressing Iran's program for the long term. Allies received briefings on the operation. Naval forces remain positioned to protect freedom of navigation. Shipping companies report vessels rerouting to avoid the area, as they have for months now. The immediate crisis appears contained for now, but risks of miscalculation remain elevated in this volatile region. Observers note that both sides appear eager to limit escalation while asserting their own red lines. The story continues to develop with U.S. and Israeli armed forces monitoring Iranian movement and maritime traffic. I'm Robert Gardner, using GROK each weekday to truthfully summarize the news. Of course, I do give you my opinions, but I hope I make that pretty obvious. We review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world right after this. M.S. Gardner, my wife, is author of last year's Moon Meridian Prize winner from April Gloaming Publishing, Wolf's Bane, a dark, serious, modern take on an old fairy tale. I promise you've never heard Little Red Riding Hood told like this. It's a page-turning Southern Gothic story for adults. Wolf's Bane, available now at thecuriousauthor.com. All one word, thecuriousauthor.com. Now, we GROK the news with headlines from around the world. Dateline, Augusta, Maine. Notorious Democrat Graham Platner won Maine's Senate primary and will face off against longtime Republican Senator Susan Collins in November. Platner overcame multiple personal controversies during the campaign. Democrats view the contest as critical for Senate control, despite reservations about their disgraceful nominee. Turnout remained strong. It makes this observer wonder if Democrats weren't actually complimenting Trump and his MAGA movement by calling them Nazis. Well, it seems they're willing to vote for one, at least as long as he is a fellow socialist. And this observer has, and he has got to say, has often said that with Republicans like Senator Susan Collins, who needs Democrats, but once again we wind up faced with a rhino Republican or a crazed socialist. Dateline, by the way, that was obviously my opinion. Dateline, Columbia, South Carolina. Senator Lindsey Graham secured the Republican nomination for another term, endorsed by Trump. In the gubernatorial primary, Trump endorsed Pamela Yvette, and the state's Attorney General Alan Wilson have advanced to a runoff. Representative Nancy Mace failed to move forward after she did not receive Trump's endorsement. Results strengthen GOP positioning in the state. Dateline, Johannesburg, South Africa. Gunmen killed at least 12 people in a mass shooting at a shanty town near Johannesburg. Police launched a major manhunt. The attack has heightened fears over violent crime and public safety across South Africa. Motives remain unclear. Dateline, Belfast, Northern Ireland. Anti-immigrant protesters torched cars and buildings in Belfast following a knife attack involving a Sudanese suspect. Police urged calm, while Irish patriot groups both from Northern and Southern Ireland demonstrated together the growing anger of the people. Let that sink in. The usual so-called community leaders called for unity with the disastrous elite policies in order to prevent further violence against the migrants. This observer feels they could obviously care less about their own indigenous Irish population. Dateline, Manila. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck the Philippines, killing perhaps 46 people and displacing thousands. Multiple buildings collapsed. Rescue crews continue searching the rubble as aftershocks persist. International aid teams are mobilizing to assist. Dateline, Sacramento, California. Earlier this week, Trump-backed Republican Steve Hilton advanced in California's gubernatorial primary. Late mail ballots, as usual, shaped final results. The race is drawing national attention as an early indicator for future political trends. Both parties are claiming momentum in the race. Dateline, Washington, D.C. The House passed a $70 billion bill to fund immigration enforcement, border security, and ICE operations. This measure now heads to President Trump for his signature. Supporters call it vital to national sovereignty. Dateline, Kiev. Ukrainian drones and homegrown missiles struck Moscow area targets and Russian oil facilities for several days on end. President Zelensky confirmed these operations. Kiev says the attacks hit key supply lines. Russia reported damage and vows retaliation. Dateline, Islamabad. Pakistan carried out airstrikes inside Afghanistan. Officials say they killed some of the militants there. The Taliban report civilian deaths, including children. This latest crossover border action highlights ongoing tensions over alleged militant safe havens. Dateline Tyre in Lebanon. Israeli airstrikes hit the southern Lebanese city of Tyre and several other areas. Reports do confirm deaths. Iran had warned Israel against continued operations, while simultaneously ordering Hezbollah to continue their terrorist proxy war against Israel. The strikes persist despite broader regional efforts to de-escalate. Dateline Los Angeles. Nithya Raman advanced to the Los Angeles mayoral runoff. Spencer Pratt was eliminated. Mail-in ballots, almost exclusively for Raman, hardly any for the current mayor, were counted after she had already conceded. She had tearfully given up. But those mail-in ballots counted after the election made a singular difference. The contest will be the city's first runoff in years. This observer recognizes the usual post-election Democrat mail-in ballot surge, first charted in the 2020 presidential election, exclusively in Democrat states. Dateline New York, New York. Fresh lawsuits accuse Sean Diddy Combs of sexual assault, including one involving a child actor. The claims add to the music executive's mounting legal challenges. Combs, of course, denies all allegations. Dateline Washington, D.C. New forecasts show Social Security's Retirement Trust Fund heading toward a shortfall sooner than previously expected. Bipartisan concern grows. Trustees have repeatedly warned lawmakers, yet meaningful reform discussions remain stalled. This observer has been observing and reporting on this exact story since the 1980s. Dateline Washington, D.C. The Trump administration is pursuing denaturalization of more U.S. citizens than occurred during the entire Biden presidency. The DOJ is targeting serious criminal cases. We're talking about 17 individuals who put their fresh American citizenship to work against American citizens. Officials emphasize focus on public safety. Dateline Houston, Texas. Teenager Carmelo Anthony received a 35-year prison sentence after conviction for savagely murdering fellow student Austin Metcalf at a track meet. The victim's family expressed deep sorrow and frustration in court. This observer notes that the victim's family has been set up, that the murderer's family has been set up in a mansion in a gated community with proceeds from the Legal Defense Fund collected to defend the indefensible. This observer wishes the Metcalf family blessings and peace. Dateline Silver Spring, Maryland. The FDA has approved the first new sunscreen active ingredient in years. Don't ask me to pronounce it. Officials say it expands protection options. Skin cancer prevention, of course, remains a priority for public health campaigns. Dateline Naypyidaw, Myanmar. Myanmar's military intensified forced conscription as rebel forces lose ground in their ongoing civil war. Rights groups document widespread fear. The junta retains control of major population centers. Dateline Washington, D.C. The House Oversight Committee questioned Bill Gates about his past relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Lawmakers sought details on their interactions. Gates previously described these contacts as Limited. And Dateline Cape Canaveral, Florida. Let's end up on some good news. NASA has announced the Artemis 3 crew for the next lunar landing mission. It includes the first European lunar astronaut. The selection marks progress towards sustained American presence on the moon. I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again GROK the News. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.